Welcome everybody to Using Marketing's YouTube channel. It's good to have you guys on board, and I'm happy to introduce Michelle to you. We kind of want to talk a little bit about how, since most of our customers and our viewers own pressure washing businesses, landscaping businesses, and other service type business, she's actually here to kind of demonstrate and kind of showcase the value of like customer service and things like that. So, without telling too much of your story, I'd love for you to take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm excited to be here with you today. So, it's so interesting because as the world evolves, a lot of people wonder, is the phone dead? But the truth of the matter is that it is not. I mean, especially in the home service industry, your landscapers, pressure washers, and everybody else, the majority of your business and your customers that are going to be captured are still primarily going to be from the phone. And so we're just passionate about sharing with different home service providers how to be smart to make the best bang for your buck. Basically, turn your phone into an ATM machine where you can close more customers, make sure you're capturing everyone, and make sure that you're getting more repeat business. And so at JillsOffice, we answer over 1 million calls a year, primarily for the home service industry. So we just have learned a lot about what works and what doesn't on the phone, and just love sharing about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, thank you again for joining us on this. And like I mentioned, a lot of our customers are actually pressure washing industry and landscaping industry. So I think we can get into a lot of good nuggets of information to share on that. So, what are some tips and tricks that you would say for pressure washing businesses, just surface level?
Sure. I mean, the most basic one, it seems common sense, but I still always like to talk about it because it's not happening. And that's just making sure that you have some system in place to answer every single call. We actually will do random surveys out to home service businesses across the US just to see how people are doing. And the last time we did one in the cleaning industry is we called out to 100 random businesses and only 27% answered their phone. 73 did not answer.
Wow.
And that always kills us. It's like stabbing our heart because that's money you're leaving on the table. And
Mm-hmm.
so number one, just make sure you're picking up the phone. We love when people have a full-time receptionist or some sort of office manager that's specifically in charge of answering the phone. And just make sure that you have some backup in place for, sick days, holidays, after hours. I mean, we're amazed how many people we get that call at 9 o'clock at night to get their home washed. And
Mm-hmm.
when somebody actually answers the phone, they're pleasantly surprised and excited to actually be able to get help. A lot of people call on Saturday thinking businesses are open. So make sure you've got something in place that someone is always answering the phone. Amazon's ruined all of us that were just used to immediate service. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you can actually have someone live, always there and available, you're going to have a better chance of closing that customer. So that's the first thing I tell everyone is to answer the phone and have something in place to make sure your phone gets answered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's super important.
Of course. Yeah, when it comes to, so you gave a case study on 27 out of 100 answer the phone, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
If you kind of rearrange that, 27, only 27% of phone calls were answered. And if we use that same level of statistic, that's 73% of missed sales, which is crazy. I'm just thinking to myself, what is the
Yep.
impact of, and you just did one case study, one call to each company. What is like the impact of not answering the phone calls in those
Oh
situations?
yeah. Well, I mean, an average business owner misses about 2.5 calls a day,
Mhm.
just regular business. So, I mean, if you take what your average price of a job is, for easy math, let's say it's like $500. So every time you miss a call, that's potential $500 that you're leaving on the table because people just go through Google oftentimes, and whoever is the first one to answer gets a job.
Mhm.
So, in a day, that's $1,000 that you might be leaving on the table. You
Mhm.
look at that over a week, and I mean, this is just
Oh yeah.
assuming 5 days a week, you're looking at 5,000. Over a month, you're looking at 20,000. Over a
Mhm.
year, almost up $250,000 just by not answering the phone. And
Mhm.
that's just for one job. But in pressure washing landscaping, you're looking at a good lifetime value of these customers because they're going to come back for repeat service if you take care of them right. And so, I mean, this is literally $1 million a year, just if you're missing just a few calls a day. So yeah, definitely there's impact there. I mean, when I look at that 73% that's not answering, I mean, that's a huge opportunity for everyone who's smart enough to have something placed to answer all those calls because you're going to be better than your competition. I mean, I'll talk about for myself. I'm trying to get someone to do some landscaping on my home, and
Mhm.
I've called about 5 businesses, and not only did no one answer, but no one's called me back. And I'm just like,
Oh
I'm
man.
wanting to pay you money. Let me pay you money. Come take care of my house, and like they're just not answering their phone, not calling me back, and so that's painful. So,
Yeah.
but it's hard to juggle all the balls. So if you aren't in a position right now to be always ready and available to answer your phone. And I actually suggest business owners aren't, because there's a lot of more important things you can be doing in your business. Then just make sure you get something in place somehow for that phone to get answered.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point, right? If you're calling landscaping business owners and they don't answer, my immediate assumption is they're actually doing some landscaping job, hence why they're not readily available to pick up the phone. So then I think to myself, based on how many of our customers I've had interactions with, most of them are single owners, like they're the only one that runs the business. So they're not able to answer the phone while the pressure washer or lawnmower is running at the same exact time. So in that case, I'm assuming for the most part they may be in the first year or second year, and therefore their financial situation is not so that they can hire a full-time person, like, such as an office manager, and have them on payroll 40 hours a week. So in that case, what is the solution that you guys offer that kind of fits in with those sole proprietors?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we do offer 24/7 answering service, and we work with businesses in a variety of different stages of growth. So you're solo entrepreneur, we can serve if you a lot of them like a lot of people like answering the phones themselves, and so their phones can still ring to you first, but if you're on a job or otherwise engaged, have us roll over to us as backup. But then we also work with a lot of businesses that are further along and maybe have a CSR in office, but we can just serve as backup to them for lunches and overnights and weekends and things like that. And so either way, we're there to help out as little or as much as you need. One perk to our service is that especially with depending on where you're located, with both pressure washing and landscaping, it can be very seasonal, and
Mhm.
so it's hard to justify paying someone all year
Yeah.
for a job that's not always busy, or letting people go and then having to rehire. That can be kind of painful. And so what's great about ours is you can use us as much or little as you need. You can put us on hold, so it's just kind of here as much or little as you need us.
Hmm. Okay, so it's like to explain it very rudimentarily, it's like a pay-as-you-go type of plan rather than having a full-time staff on hand.
Right. Yeah, we can just work with you. We have
Mhm.
different minutes packages. So a lot of times in the spring and the fall, they're needing bigger ones, and then in the winter and either just
Mhm.
putting us on hold or just lower packages. But yeah, exactly. It can kind of grow or expand with you rather than, when you're super slammed, your assistant is super Facebook and
Yeah.
Instagram or whatever they're on now.
That's a good point. That has happened in the past for us. So we've learned to develop systems and infrastructures to kind of maximize the use of our employees' time. When it comes to, this is kind of a nuanced question. So a lot of the pressure washing business owners or landscaping business owners, they may be getting a call. So how would you describe the process of making a sale versus providing good customer service?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think they're the same thing, really. I mean, because honestly, we're always selling.
Hmm.
Even if they're a repeat customer, you're always having to resell people on how great you are to work with as a company. So good customer service usually equals good sales.
Hmm.
So just making sure that you sound super happy and friendly on the
Hmm.
phone. We tell all of our receptionists to smile because you can hear a
Smiling back.
smile through the phone. I mean, I like doing this because even if someone's just listening in on like a podcast, you can still hear this.
Mhm.
But I'm going to answer this call the exact same way and see if you hear a difference. All right. So thank you for calling A Plus Window Cleaning. How can I help you today? Thank you for calling A Plus Window Cleaning. How can I help you today? You
Yeah.
can hear that. Your voice goes up a little bit. You just sound a little more warm, a little more friendly on the call.
Oh.
So definitely making sure. I mean, when we called out to these businesses, a lot of them didn't even say their name when we called
Mhm.
those that actually answered the phone. A lot of them are just still answering hello. So make sure that you're answering with your company name. Make sure you're gathering their name and their info as soon in the call as possible, just because if you do lose them for any reason or they decide not to do
Mhm.
service with you right away, you at least have their information so you can do follow up with them down the road. Um, and then just, listening to them, being super helpful and friendly. I mean, you're inviting people to come to your home. This is their sacred place, their family's there. So sounding really warm and friendly and just super helpful is going to help close that sale, because, you want to do business with people who you like and can trust.
Yeah, that's a big thing as well, especially like you just mentioned, inviting somebody to your home. And we like to stress the importance of having branded apparel, like a
Yes.
logo on the polo, and also having like at least a car magnet or a vehicle wrapped,
Yes.
something to show that you're actually a professional and you're there because you mean business, and not just some guy who just happens to have a pressure washing gun, and so you start doing like that. So I stress the importance of that too, and it sounds like you do as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's
So.
amazing with those two things alone, picking up the phone and then sounding nice on the phone, how much more
Mhm.
business. I mean, we'll have people literally tell us on the phone, you are the only ones I could get a hold of. So even though, it might be more, I'm going to go with you. Or, wow, you sounded so great. Like, you're so helpful. I feel like I want to work with you guys. I can trust you guys. I mean, it does. It makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Trust is everything, actually. It's so important. Some people, like you kind of alluded to, they're willing to pay a little bit more if they can have that reliability and predictability of the business owner, that they are available and
Yes.
responsive
Right.
and are there to do their job.
Right. I mean, because part of the thing too, and this is why I'm struggling with my landscaping right now, is because if they're not answering the phone when I'm wanting to pay them money and I'm a new customer, what happens when something goes wrong?
Mm,
They're not going to be available. They're not going to fix it. And that, I mean, I'm thinking about that. It's telling a message to me. So you being responsive when they call in the first time, again, builds trust that if something goes wrong, you're going to be responsive and come back and fix it or talk to me through it and work through it. Because again, I want to make sure that I'm doing business with someone that is going to take care of it if anything does go wrong.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's say, for instance, the viewer is a pressure washing business and they've been in business for a year. They just got started and they decide to use a virtual receptionist for having the phone calls answered. Uh, do you think that the people calling in are almost always looking for a purchase?
Not every time. I mean, if it's a new customer, usually they are. A lot of times they're in information gather and pay
Mm,
trying to figure out what options are out there. I mean,
hmm.
it might be repeat customers or
Oh, yeah.
current customers calling in and just asking questions about their job. But again, it's important to be responsive to that because you want to have a good customer service from the beginning to the end, a good customer experience where you're always being responsive no matter what questions they have or where they are in their progress with you as a customer. So yeah, I mean, I would say I recently read a report over at 5 million calls from the home service industry, and they said about 30% of the ones that come in are for a new customer. So
Mm,
the other 70% are probably either, partly sales calls, but then also just from current customers with questions. But you want to make sure with all of them that you're being responsive and available. It sends a message.
hmm. So part of that 30%, does that include people who are in the shopping phase rather than like ready to purchase?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Just someone looking for service.
Yeah, so we obviously print yard signs, and our job is to get our customers' phone ringing. So the idea is to get the phone ringing so they can go in, and one of these businesses, they decide to hire Jill's office or another virtual receptionist. Do you guys actually make the sale, or do you
We
set the
can.
appointments?
Yeah, we can do really we can customize it according to what you want.
Mhm,
We can just gather the information, we can kind of pre-qualify them. I know, just trying to filter out the tire kickers can be a
mhm,
huge benefit. So you're not wasting your time, especially if you do in-person estimates going
mhm,
out if they're not even got the funds to do your minimum. So
mhm,
that's a big part of it. We can schedule estimates and then we can also schedule jobs. For landscaping in particular, usually we don't schedule as many jobs. It's more estimates just because they're usually a lot more specialized.
mhm,
But I mean, depending on what the needs are, we can definitely do that and just give them ideas of what different services we can offer and what the minimums or ranges. For
mhm,
pressure washing, we can do, yeah, again, similar things or in any other service industry of capturing the customer, scheduling estimates, booking jobs, and even doing outbound follow up is also part of it that we can do as well.
Interesting. So it almost sounds like what you and other virtual receptionist services may offer is like a fully stocked up in-house team of people ready to answer the phone, except they're obviously not in-house. When it comes to, like, let's say somebody's in their first year in business and they're looking into one of these options, uh, what would you say is the significant or even subtle advantage of, say, use your service over answering the phone themselves?
I think the time and the mental space honestly is the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, phone phobia is a real thing, and a lot of business owners have it, and it's honestly in a lot of ways harder to answer the call for your own business than it is for somebody else because
Mm-hmm.
it's not that other people don't take it personally, but you take it even more personally. If someone rejects you anyway, or doesn't like your price,
Mm-hmm.
or doesn't like anything about it, I mean, it's a personal stab. Whereas if someone else is doing it for you, they're still going to care, but they're not going to take it to the same effect. So the emotional energy it takes to always be on your A game and
Mm-hmm.
always be sounding super happy and perky on the phone while also putting out all the fires and wearing all the other hats in your business can be really wearing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it also takes a mental space. I mean, as a business owner, you really should be focusing the majority of your mental power and capacity on how to grow your business and how, to make partnerships with realtors or other people that, could be help you get more business in and
Mm-hmm.
how where your marketing money is going, how to get your phone to ring more, working with your marketing people, working with your team to find the right A players to get the jobs done. That's really where the most of your majority of your time should be spending because a lot of those things are something that nobody else can do but you. So the things that you can delegate to save that brain power is super important. And
Mm-hmm.
also just the time sucker. I mean, yeah, it might just be a 5 minute call here and a 10 minute call there, and maybe a 2 minute call there, but it's constantly getting interrupted throughout the day. That makes it really hard again to focus on really growing your business. So that's one huge aspect of it. Another part is just work family balance. We joke all the time we're in the business of saving marriages because it's amazing. I mean, you start your business because you want to better support yourself, your family, you want to bring a legacy, you want to own your time, you want more freedom. But then the reality hits that, you gave up that 40-hour a week job to work 80 hours for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And it takes a big toll on just your own balance and also your family. And so being able to turn the phone off at nights and take a real vacation or attend your son's soccer game and be 100% focused and not have to step away for a call. I mean, really that's invaluable. And it's also really important just to keep you happy and wanting to continue running your business and doing your job is
Mm-hmm.
to feel like you can turn it off sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard that saying all the time. You quit your 40-hour a week job to be an employee at your own business, 80 hours a week, and that's a stark reality, and I think it's almost fundamentally required in a lot of cases, at least in the beginning. But over time, you can start learning to kind of delegate out those day-to-day tasks to various people. And we mentioned earlier that 40-hour a week position average 2.5 calls a day, then having someone who's guaranteed to pick up the phone in those two and a half calls day after day, that's a certain level of reliability and predictability that the business owner can depend on.
Right. And I mean, every business owner should be working with someone like you guys to get their phone to ring. I mean, that's a no-brainer if you want to grow your business, but to make sure you're getting the best ROI
Mhm.
on your marketing efforts, make sure they're getting their phone to ring,
Mhm.
have someone answer so you can
Mhm.
close that lead. Yeah,
Oh yeah, no point in having the phone ring if nobody answers.
right.
And from a consumer standpoint, we're obviously on the business side of it, but like we've talked to enough customers and we've experienced it ourselves where if a customer calls in and we missed the call, a few years ago we were missing a lot of phone calls. We always returned them by the end of the day, but the majority of the ones that we called back, they don't answer, and we never hear from them again. And the sad truth is that we paid for each one of those phone calls because we advertised on Google or something like that, and it's just a huge waste of hours because we weren't able to answer the phone on time.
Right. Yeah.
So let's say somebody's in a business owner's in the, let's say, buying phase of whether they want to use your company, but they haven't just made that decision just yet. What are some tips that you can share with them to kind of give them the skills they need to kind of do what you do?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I think I mean, when we hire receptionists, we put them through a 3-week boot camp in just how the science of answering the phone. And a lot of people think that, anyone can answer the phone, but the reality is that there is a science and art to it. And so I always suggest people, whoever is answering your phones, put them through some sort of customer service training, especially in the phones, because you don't have your body language to help with the customer
Mm,
service. You only really have your voice and your word choice. And so we do lots of training in positive word choice. It makes a difference between putting things in a positive light, even if you can't do something, versus a negative light, and making that connection. I mean, as humans, we are primarily emotional creatures. We like to think we're really logical, but we're really emotional creatures that justify our emotions with logic. And
mhm,
so making that connection on the phone is super important. I mean, I mentioned before smiling, making sure you're using their name on the call at least once
mhm,
or twice. That makes help again to make that connection, and that's what people do to decide to when deciding who to do business with. Filling that connection is huge.
mhm,
We also do a lot of personality training.
mm,
So understanding different personalities. We train a receptionist in the DISC model. So someone that is more of a dominant personality. They just want the information, the hard facts, quick and fast. They don't want to small talk, and if you
mm,
small talk they get annoyed. Versus
mhm.
someone that's
Me.
more yeah, versus someone that is more of a social person. They're going to want to tell you about the history of their house and how they bought it from their grandpa and how he planted that tree, and you want to make sure that tree stays nice, and
Mhm,
how their kids swing on it and all
mhm.
these memories. And I mean, obviously, you don't want to draw the call really long, but taking the time to really validate their story and engage with them, that's what's going to make the connection with them. So it's important to have that emotional intelligence on the phone to be able to know how to kind of mirror the caller. It really makes a big difference in closing the sale. And I think also just when they're doing training in how to handle an upset customer, on how to de-escalate them and validate their concerns, but also to focus on solutions. Those are all really important things to train whoever's answering your phones in. And it's amazing what significant changes we've seen in clients who just hired anyone to answer the phone versus someone they've put through some sort of customer service training on the phones, and how much better they do in just closing more deals and creating a better impression for their business. It's huge.
Man, so 3 weeks boot camp is insane, but I think it's actually required. Like you have to know the science or art. I think you would said science behind answering the phone call because it is like there's a very fundamental framework that you have to go through, and a lot of people, a lot of business owners have been answering phone call for maybe a year, but they may be missing key elements of what exactly to say and when and how to say it. You mentioned the body language thing a little bit earlier. I actually heard the statistic. I don't know how true it is, but let's just go with it. Uh, 20% is what you say, 80% is how you say it.
Mhm.
So, especially if you're on the phone and you're dealing with a customer that can't see you, then that 80% is all like verbal cues, like smile and dial, for instance, or repeating their name back to them, mirroring their style of talking. These are the nuanced things that even if you've been answering phone for 3 years, if you don't have this like in-depth experience and expertise through, let's say, a course, then those are the things that might just be forgotten or
Right.
not looked at.
That's huge. And I mean, one tip I like to give people is even when asking for an email, rather than saying, can I put an email on file, you don't want to ask certain things as a yes or no because you don't want them to
Mm-hmm.
say no. It's not a yes or no question. They have to give your email. It's just how you're presenting it. So instead of that, just saying, what's the best email
Mm-hmm.
to send the estimate to? So it's not really giving them an option to opt out. It's more just and telling them the benefit of what's in it for them for giving the email. Little things like that as you're trying to get different information from the customer can again be the difference whether you capture that information or you don't.
Hmm. Interesting statistic. So let's say, for instance, just hypothetically, um, would you like me to go ahead and send you that quote? That's a yes or no question, right? And they can potentially answer with, "No, I'm okay. I'm just shopping." But if you actually say it like this and reframe it, this is what we do for our business: is what's the best phone number where we can send you an itemized quote, or best email address to send you an itemized quote so you have it in written format?
Yes.
And just the value from a consumer perspective, the value of having it right there, everything being transparently laid out. Who would deny that? Who would decline that?
Right.
It's like it takes no effort except giving your contact information, and you have everything to potentially gain. Worst case scenario, you have a price that you can ask another competitor to beat that price. So,
Right, exactly. I think I love that too. And I mean, we focus a lot on what's in it for them. So
hmm
always think about what's the benefit to the customer for them to do this for you or give this to you, and make sure you highlight that. We
hmm
use that a lot too when we're trying to sell like maintenance plans,
hmm
rather than just making it about, hey, join our maintenance plan. Hey, did you know? Would you like to hear how you could save 10% off your cleaning today, and whatever other stack is in there, and
hmm
just constantly focusing on the benefits and not just selling the features. That's huge too.
Awesome. So, last thing I want to ask you really quick, when it comes to the majority of the pressure washing businesses or landscaping businesses that you worked with, what are some of the least desirable traits that they exhibit when they answer the phone, if you have that information?
I think being distracted is huge.
Mm.
Nobody wants to hear loud, like banging behind them or a lawnmower. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
because it's hard. Calls in, they want to feel like they're the most important person in the world because they are in that moment. And so making sure that your background is of there aren't loud noises in the background is huge.
hmm
Making sure that you use your phone voice so you have that happy, friendly voice. That's another really important thing that we don't hear all the time, but I really suggest people to do.
hmm
And I think also, I mean, this isn't having a way to systematize that you're gathering the information. So if you're out in the field, I mean, a lot of people are still just using their hand or post-it note, but even if that is the case, make sure you have a system that at the end of the day, you're making sure you put that somewhere, so it doesn't get lost. So that's really important as well, because how painful if you like took the time to get all their contact info and then you lost that post-it note. So make sure even if it's in your truck, you just have a little folder or a Ziploc or whatever to put all the information in so that you don't lose any of it. That's huge.
Yeah, awesome. So why Jill's office?
Um, the thing about Jill's office is that we are 100% US based.
hmm
And so a lot of companies like that, we don't like to sound like an answering service. We want to sound like we are actually, part of your company. We often
hmm
get mistaken to be the wife or whatever it may be. And so obviously we're not going to know all the ins and outs of your business, but we are professionally trained. We know the industry, and we are just passionate about helping business owners grow. And a lot of answering services too, they can't schedule and they can't do follow-up calls.
hmm
So the fact that you can get that all in one place is huge.
Okay, yeah, very nice. So I appreciate you for joining us and kind of sharing with our customers who happen to also be the same demographics that are your customers as well. So I think you were able to share some of the basic tips and tricks on the value and benefits of virtual receptionist, but more importantly, Jill's office, and how our audience is kind of aligned. So I appreciate you for joining us on that.
Thank you so much for letting me be here. This was so fun.
Yeah, so for all of you guys viewing this video, we will include the information for Jill's office in the description. You'll see the links to go there. And we actually did partner up with Jill's office. We have a mutual beneficial thing going on where we're actually featured on their website. They refer yard sign customers our way, and we're returning the favor and kind of sharing the benefits of having virtual receptionists. And you heard it from Michelle yourself. Missing 2.5 phone calls a day, whether you are the one answering it or you hire Jill's office or another virtual receptionist, the detrimental effect of just missing those phone calls is insane. You just do the math, start extrapolating out the way she did for a year, 2.5 phone calls missed a day for a year is just a lot of revenue just left on the table.
Absolutely. Thank you
So
so much.
thank you, Michelle. You have a good one.
You too.
Cool.